Hey, everybody. It's Jen Maleka here and Reed Davis for this week's Health Coach Tip Tuesday show, where we aim to deliver all kinds of tips, tools, and resources so that you can confidently solve your clients' health issues and grow your career as a health coach or a professional. And we're always so excited to have you on, Reed, on the third and fourth Tuesday of every month to talk about some of the most important things. So for those of you that are just joining on with us, today we're going to be talking with Reed about why clients are more compliant when we use functional lab data with them and lab testing. So I'm excited for Reed to share some insights with you, because Reed really kind of developed this whole approach to using lab data to actually strike, motivation and compliance with clients and get better results, as we talked about last week. So if you're on with us, we'd love to engage with you guys. I see Jess here. If you have questions for us as we're talking today, feel free to drop your questions below the video and we will get to those throughout the show in the next 30 minutes. And also, if you know that you are interested in learning more about how to run a successful health coaching business and about how to use functional lab data in order to increase compliance with clients, go ahead and drop the word lab below. And we are going to not only send you our 3-step guide to getting real results with clients, but we also have some partial scholarships that we're going to be giving away. And if you drop that word lab below the video here, you're going to be able to apply for one of those partial scholarships today. So Reed, let's dig in to our topic for today. And before we do that, is there anything that you want to say as a welcome to the audience, or anything that you just want to share off the top of your head before we dive in?
Well,
Loaded question.
Happy Tuesday. Happy Tuesday. I'm always glad to do these Health Coach Tip Tuesdays. They're real short shows. Had a little technical difficulty on this one. We started a bit late, but I do want to talk about the 3 C's, not just the compliance, but the 3 C's of using labs as a health coach. And we'll start wherever you want, Jen.
Awesome. And I see Sam is already dropping the word lab to get more information below the video. And so for anybody that's newly joining us, I've got Reed Davis here, founder of Functional Diagnostic Nutrition, and we are talking about why clients are more compliant when using lab testing or lab data. So if you want more information about that, as well as an opportunity to apply for a partial scholarship, please go ahead and drop the word lab below our video. And yes, Reed, let's dive into this topic. So before we talk about the 3 C's, which I want to get to because that's the juicy part today, let's actually take it back to the beginning and tell the audience, like our viewers here today, share a little bit more with them about how you actually got into using lab data with clients in the first place. Like, how did this really come about?
Yeah, that's an easy one. I was a nutritionist working in a clinic with some doctors, and back then in 1999, 2000, mostly the training for nutritionists was, as it applied to working in an office in a clinical setting, was about using supplements to replace drugs, which is a good thing. Okay, they're less toxic, there's no side effects except health, But also, at the same time, it was still just like treating symptoms. It's like they came in with this or that and they wanted to get off their medication, and with the doctor's approval, of course, they got on some natural supplements and they ate right and did a few lifestyle things, and they generally felt better, but it didn't resolve chronic conditions very well. They still had them. They felt, it was minor progress. So I was at a seminar one weekend and found out that I could run labs under the doctors at the office. And so I started going crazy running labs, this lab after lab. I mean, it's like every single person walking in the door, I'm like, well, we're going to run some labs, and figured out, people were caught in the cycle of trial and error, and I decided I'd be the last one they had to see, and all this whole story. And after doing so much work, thousands of labs on thousands of people, I started to understand the patterns involved in, chronic conditions that they had to resolve, regardless of what their symptoms were, regardless of what their quote unquote diagnosis was. So I was using labs. These are alternative labs. Some of them to this day are still considered alternative or experimental or what they call research use only. So really, we just call them screenings now. They're health screenings. You can look at the hormones, you can look at the immune system, digestion, detoxification. You can look at some other things, food sensitivity, pathogens, and they're just screenings. They're health screenings that everyone should know about and everyone should be able to do and apply the data, to a health situation. So we're not like doctors. We're not trying to diagnose and treat specific things. Why would we want to do that? That's already failed for most people.
Yeah.
And so after years and years, this just became our way of doing business.
Right. And it's said, Reed, and that you've run over 10,000 labs. And I think that probably, I would say closer to 20,000 at this point in time, if you consider all the
It's a million.
training. Yeah, all the training that you've done, all the lab data that you see actually coming through, not only what you've done personally, but now what we see coming through the functional diagnostic nutrition program with all of our practitioners running labs, all of our trainees running labs. You have your eyes on all that data. So you're really the go-to expert when we're talking about using lab data to help us, assess some of those underlying, hidden healing opportunities that you just mentioned, and then how we use that data to help people get better. So I see some new people jumping on here. Angie, Kim, great, Kristen.
Yeah,
You guys, for anybody that's new, Reed Davis here, the founder of FDN, we're talking about why clients are more compliant when you use lab data. And if you're interested in getting more information about this specifically, please drop the word lab below the video. We're going to instantly send you our 3-step guide to getting real results that you can use to apply with your clients and yourself. And there's an opportunity to apply for a partial scholarship to get into the FDN training. So going back to our conversation here, Reed, what did you start to notice about clients as you shared lab data with them? And maybe specifically how it improved compliance or how it motivated them to take action. And I know I've actually heard you tell this story before. I think you should share this with our listeners, is the client with the hives, how it motivated her to do things differently and actually get better ultimately.
Well, people are just more compliant when they have something in black and white, something you can measure, something you can change. As a matter of fact, I've heard it said you can't change something if you can't measure it. There's no way to track. I mean, are you just only going to ever go by your feelings? The idea of symptoms we know isn't enough. So they could go away. Doesn't mean you really fixed anything. You could just be treating the symptoms. So the compliance factor is very obvious. If you go to a physician and he says you have cancer, you're going to do anything he tells you to do to save your life. So we don't work on emergent conditions like that so much, but still the black and white, what's on paper. Number one, it gives people a lot of confidence that they're working on the right thing. Because when we show people our these sort of alternative labs or functional labs, and again, not for diagnosing, but for just healing opportunities. When we show them why they feel so crappy, they go, "Oh my God, how come no one else ever showed me this?"
Yes.
You're the first person ever said and really explain why I feel whatever it is, the tired, fatigued, and sinuses and allergies and moodiness and digestive problems and aches and pains and what have you. So we're actually showing them upstream reasons why you feel like that. And then they go, well, what can I do about it? So they've got the confidence that they're working on the right thing and they're going to be compliant. And I guess the other thing is the idea that it's very comprehensive. We don't run one lab looking for one thing. That's diagnosing and treating. That's what is wrong with the other systems, or at least it's what's incomplete about them. It's not wrong, but it's incomplete. Mm-hmm. Most practitioners specialize in one thing or another. And so they're not getting the compliance because people have so many other problems going on simultaneously.
Yeah.
So you can show them the 3 C's are, confidence that you're working on the right underlying healing opportunities. The second C is really comprehensiveness. You've got to identify more than one healing opportunity because there's so many things going on. Then you get the compliance. And when you get that, people get results. Compliance equals results.
It certainly does, Reed. And I see this with my clients all the time. Like when we run these functional lab assessments on them and we get the data back, and like, some people will say, for example, they'll say, well, I tried a gluten-free diet and I didn't feel like it was working. So I gave up because it didn't resolve, their issues. But we know as FDN practitioners that they actually have something bigger going on than just an issue with gluten, right? Like there's this whole concept of metabolic chaos that you talk about, that we learn about in the course, which is part of the FDN approach, which is why we run a series of functional lab assessments to look at the different, systems of the body and see how they're all connected. So when I run these labs with a client like that says, oh, I went gluten-free and it didn't work, but then we get lab data back that points towards, gluten being an issue for them and all the downstream effects or the, contributing factors to all of this. Now they're motivated to be compliant towards that, gluten-free diet. Or when they see that their, cortisol is dysregulated on functional health assessment that we do to look at steroid hormones and cortisol patterns, now they're more motivated to actually participate in meditation or activities that are going to reduce, their mental emotional stress. So I think what it really does in a lot of ways, and this probably goes along with the confidence part, is it gives them some of those missing pieces to the puzzle because they've been, taking a shot in the dark, which is what we kind of call the cycle of trial and errors, that they're out there kind of throwing spaghetti against the wall, hoping that it's going to stick and nothing's really working. But when we can use this objective data to say, here's the healing opportunities that you have, and use that information to guide recommendations for diet, rest, exercise, stress reduction, supplementation, the client feels more confident in the direction that they're moving in because they can see how this is going to then come back and directly improve or impact what's going on in their body. I think as the health practitioner, I know that I feel even more confident in the work that I'm doing because we're using this objective data to guide their recommendations for them. And so ultimately, then that starts to inspire that compliance on both, I would say even both sides, like compliance with the client and compliance of the health practitioner or health coach to keep encouraging and supporting and working with them. So for anybody new that's jumped on again, here with Reed Davis, our founder of Functional Diagnostic Nutrition, we're talking about why clients are more compliant when we're using this functional lab data or these functional lab assessments to help clients. And if you're interested in getting more information about this and a chance to receive a partial scholarship for the FDN training, go ahead and drop the word lab below. You're going to instantly get our 3-step guide to getting real results that you can use with your clients. And you'll also get a link to apply for that partial scholarship. So Reed, let's dive a little bit more into the 3 C's because I feel like we've kind of touched on them, but let's go through them, very clearly with people. And what are these 3 C's that that lab data really provides, or these lab assessments provide health coaches and health professionals and even the clients too?
Well, the 3 C's that I have listed are the confidence in the practitioner, that you're working on the right things. You've identified with lab work some healing opportunities. And then, of course, we run more than one lab. Another C, if you will, I could come up with a lot of C words, like, because most practitioners are looking for dots, something that's, out of range. We're considered more about connecting the dots. And it's how these things are interrelated. And that's why we call it comprehensive. So we have a lot of confidence. We're going to be cooking with gas. We're going to be really working on upstream healing opportunities. And we're not diagnosing and treating like a doctor. So we have a lot of confidence in that. And it's comprehensive, the other C, because we're connecting the dots. We're looking at multiple healing opportunities. And the third thing is that clients, when you show them on black and white why they feel so crappy and all the different things going on, it gives them confidence too, and they become very compliant. They're more likely to follow your coaching program. There's another C word: compliance, coaching, connecting the dots. People are caught in a cycle of trial and error. You're being comprehensive. And anyway, so it works towards being able to move a person along on a continuum, another C word, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's this, what we deliver so different than what doctors deliver. It's a lifestyle, and it's a pathway, and it's a, again, when you connect the dots in a comprehensive way, you get the compliance, and compliance always equals results. People are always going to feel better as long as their downward spiral isn't real medical, like they're dying. They need to get their life saved. We work very closely with doctors to make sure they're out of the woods. If it's some weird thing that happened to them, people with strokes and all, heart attacks and different things, they recover from cancer, another C word, and then and so on, concussions, and so I'm going to be thinking of C words the rest of the day,
all day.
but so you get this idea that it is comprehensive, and both the practitioner and the client, another C word, have confidence, and then you get the compliance, and you work together for a time period. It takes time to heal. And so again, this idea of we deliver a health building continuum to a person. Not necessarily, migraines go away. Yes, asthma goes away. Yes, ADD is cleared up in children, another C word. And so we get people moving forward with the 3 or more C's.
Yeah.
It's all
lots of C's.
the labs. I want to emphasize that we don't use them like doctors. This is not, running a blood panel and going, oh, everything's fine, everything looks normal. This is running saliva and stool and urine testing and some blood work, but we're looking at it for what needs balancing.
Right. We actually just had a great blog that went out, or it's going out tomorrow, about blood work specifically, and the different ways to look at blood work, like from that more functional perspective. And this is how we work differently as FDN practitioners. It's about the methodology, it's about the approach, and the functional lab testing or the data is a vehicle that helps us to facilitate the approach. And I have a very specific, this is such a great conversation to be having today, because I have a great example that I want to share. It happened in a coaching session actually last night about compliance, and how I was able to get the client to recircle back to compliance because we went back to the lab data. But before we do that, I've seen some new people hopping on. We're here with Reed Davis talking about why clients are more compliant when we're using the functional lab data. And we've got some great stuff in store for you guys. If you were interested in learning more about this and how this works, we've got some awesome opportunities for you today. You can drop the word lab below, which is going to get you a link to apply for a partial scholarship for the FDN Certification Course. If that's something that you're interested in doing, diving deeper into what we're discussing and getting your hands on the methodology and the training, and the access to the lab testing to be able to facilitate this compliance with clients a little bit more. And we're going to instantly send you our 3-step guide to getting real results with clients anyways too, as an immediate gift. So Reed, I was actually working with a client last night, and this is a great example of compliance where she was not being compliant with her supplements, and she actually had fallen off with some of her diet stuff too. So when I was coaching with her, I was able to bring back up some of her lab data that we had shared in the results review session and go back and explain to her on why some of the supplements were recommended and why they would be beneficial for her and to facilitate the healing process. And then also what the diet recommendations were doing for her and how that related back to her lab data, because we could see that she had specific sensitivities that were then, creating inflammation and other types of, metabolic chaos issues within the body system. And so I was able to just reinforce why it was important to stick with the diet plan. And we also talked about the supplements and how they would help her to progress in that healing process, to heal the intestinal lining, so that she could sooner be able to maybe try adding back some of the foods from her food sensitivity list. And so when we left the conversation, she was remotivated and on board with creating consistency with not only her supplements, but her diet again. So it's great to be able to have that data to reference back to as like, here's kind of the concrete evidence of why why these things would be beneficial for you, instead of, sometimes as health coaches or health professionals, they're making recommendations that are based on general assumptions without having the objective data in there. And then the client, may go out and do their own research and they find other things, and then they start questioning the recommendations because they don't have that concrete data that the functional lab assessments really provide. So it was really cool to be able to do that in my coaching session last night. So, and I see some great comments here. We've got Kim says, I'm new to the school and I have to say that I love how much support you guys give us. Thanks for guiding us through the process. It's not a typical online school, and that is so true. FDN is here to support you guys in helping you with what we're talking about today in terms of the lab data and compliance with clients, and like helping you to be as successful, as possible while you're doing this work. Actually, as part of the course, you get to do some of these lab assessments on yourself that we're talking about today, and you get paired with a mentor. So you get to actually experience what it's like to be a client, which actually prepares you to go out and work with clients. And I think, Reed, we probably even see some of the trainees that are coming in that, didn't have a personalized plan before. They weren't getting the results in their own personal health journeys that they were looking for. And then when they go through the course, you probably are more in touch with this than I am because you work directly with the trainees a little bit more, is that we even see them improve their compliance on their own, health journey because of the lab data that they're getting to access through their training program. Would you say that's true?
Absolutely. This morning I did a post-grad interview. We interview every graduate and work on some things, get feedback from them on our course. And it isn't all just telling us how great it is. They actually have constructive comments that we often didn't think of. And so since 2008, when I started the course, it's gotten better and better and better because I listened to the people who took it and then, meet the needs. And especially when it comes to the postgrad. But the point was that almost every graduate talks about how walking the talk really helped them on a personal, deep level. I think that alone's worth the tuition. The cost of admission. If you straighten out your own health, you got nothing to lose there, for sure. But almost everyone had some health issue, and so they worked on themselves. We actually ask everyone to walk the talk and set an example, and that's what works for clients too. If they see you, slopping down burgers and fries, they're not going to. You have to lead by example. So that's a huge thing, working on yourself. I noticed Angie asked about access to the lab. Again, if you always consider the context. Yes, we look at lab data. We consider these screenings for what's really wrong upstairs or north, like underlying, they're upstream among the rapids of, metabolic chaos and things like that. So you have to learn our phraseology, but it's very natural. It's very holistic. We're not trying to be doctors. Thank God for doctors are there when you need them. And thank God health coaches are there when you need them. And the real trick is just focus on what needs. What are the needs? So once you're out of the woods from a physician, certainly if you break your arm, you don't call your nutritionist, you go get attendant care and heroic care in the case you have a stroke or some gut unforeseen thing, but then what? Well, that's now you're in our backyard. Now you kind of belong to us. We say that we bridge the gap from self-care to medical care, and we own the bridge. We bridge the gap, and we own the bridge. There's a point where we notice, and we're trained. Part of the training is, when is attendant care appropriate? And we also have policies that you should always check with your physician before you make any major changes in supplementation or diet or even exercise. And so we're not in competition with we're here to be allied practitioners, to be complementary practitioners, to be integrative practitioners. And believe me, the space for health coaching right now is just getting bigger and bigger and bigger, to the point where even the American Medical Association has noticed the benefits of coaching. And there's trials going on with the National Institute of Health right now. I'm not completely thrilled with some of them, because they're just seeing if coaches make people take their medicine more. I don't know any health coaches want that job, but they are noticing that all the positive psychology and discipline and checking in and things that we do with people to correct course with them are very, very helpful. And that they just hope we don't steal all their customers, because we make people well. We don't just treat and manage disease.
Right. And ultimately that compliance factor is a huge piece of what helps people get well in the first place. So I know we're coming up on time here. We're going to start to wrap it up. Real quick, you guys, if anybody's joined us new, we're here talking about why clients are more compliant when we're using these functional lab assessments and functional lab data. So if you want more information on that, as well as an opportunity to apply for a partial scholarship, go ahead and drop the word lab below. And Angie, I think you had a really great question here that I just want to elaborate a little bit more on too, about how much access do coaches have to help reading the lab results and getting recommendations on how to help our clients heal. So the whole FDN certification in itself, helps you to assess lab data and look for correlations and uncover or identify these underlying healing opportunities. So FDN in itself is a complete methodology. It's a way of thinking along with it, with the tools that go along with that. So as Reed kind of mentioned before, anybody can run a lab test these days, but not everybody knows what to do with it. And that's probably the most important factor, is that, lab tests are part of the tools that we use, but ultimately it's the methodology that really facilitates this whole process, which helps clients to be more compliant as well. So Angie, as you go through the FDN training course, this is exactly what you're going to be learning. There is a lot of training and support to help you, look for these correlations, to identify the healing opportunities. And then once you even graduate and become an FDN practitioner, there's more support in that area as well. Actually, we're going to be talking a little bit more about this next week, because Reed's going to come back on and we're going to talk about how health coaches can legally and ethically, kind of use functional lab data. And we're going to talk more about our medical director program that we have in place, which is a resource for our health coaches that are trained in this area. But through that program, Angie, basically you get to meet with one of our clinical advisors for just about every single lab test that you run on a client, which is helping you through it's giving you that extra support to look for, again, these healing opportunities, these correlations, and then how do you apply that? How do you correlate that back to the person and work with the person and not just treat the test results like most people do? Because it's this methodology of actually how we work that creates so much success and is a proven process that Reed has developed. So make sure you guys join us in next Tuesday. So as we wrap up here, Reed, are there any final thoughts or things that you would like to share with our audience today?
Well, always, me, I like to talk, but we're going to let you go. But the anyone that would have any questions about health coaches using health screenings or lab data, think about it this way. It almost becomes too simple. It's information. It's information. Like, oh my God, those FDN health coaches, they're actually using information to guide their recommendations. Well, what a sin. Like think about it that way. It's just information. It belongs to the customer. And why wouldn't we use any information we can get? We call it lab data. That's just even too technical of a term. Is closer. We're not trying to put a number on it and bill an insurance company for it. It's not part of anything like that algorithm. It's just information that we use to help make suggestions to people, and it frickin' works.
It totally works. Awesome. Angie says, this all makes sense. I would love to become a coach. So Angie, make sure you drop the word lab. I think you already did below our video so that you can apply for a partial scholarship, get information from us about how to get real results with clients. And that applies for anybody else that's listening today. It's been great talking with you today, Reed. I'm really excited to have you on for next week to talk more about how coaches can legally and ethically utilize these functional lab assessments that we've been talking about today and expand on our conversation even more. So happy Health Coach Tuesday, everybody. We will see you back here next week.